In the vastness of the Mongolian steppe, a door is rarely locked, because survival has never been about keeping the world out, but about knowing how to welcome it in. Let's step inside the early hours of a Mongolian morning. It is the kind of cold that wakes you up instantly, crisp, thin, and sweeping quietly down from the distant Altai mountains. But inside, you are sheltered. You are wrapped heavily in thick sheep wool blankets. The air smells of burning argol, dried livestock dung, which gives off a surprisingly sweet, earthy smoke that settles deeply into the fabric of the walls and your clothes. Through the tonneau, the circular wooden opening at the very top of the roof, you can watch the sky shift from a bruised indigo to a pale, icy blue. Outside, you hear the muffled thud of hooves on the frozen earth, a horse shaking its heavy mane, and the soft, rhythmic murmur of a family beginning their day. A woman is already awake near the central iron stove, ladling hot, salted milk tea into small, white porcelain bowls. The rhythm here isn't dictated by an alarm clock, an email notification, or a train schedule. It is driven by the sun, the immediate needs of the animals, and the quiet whisper of the grass. We are sitting inside a jur, the traditional dwelling of the Mongolian Nomads, preparing to explore a way of life that has moved gracefully across these endless horizons for thousands of years. Welcome to Culture Journey. Today we are traveling to the high, windswept plateaus of Mongolia. It is a place where the sky feels impossibly large, stretching unbroken from edge to edge without a single skyscraper to tear the horizon. Out here, the landscape isn't just a pretty backdrop for a photograph. It is an active, demanding participant in daily life. For the nomadic herders of the steppe, this overwhelming vastness is home. We often view nomadic life through the dusty lens of the past, as if it were a fragile relic of ancient history, barely holding on against the rushing tide of the modern world. But to the people who actually live it, this is not some stubborn survival of antiquity. It is a highly sophisticated, deeply intentional philosophy of living. It is a culture built on motion, profound resilience, and an astonishingly deep connection to the natural world. Many of us today feel tightly tethered to concrete cities. We are overwhelmed by the endless accumulation of things and disconnected from the earth beneath our feet. But out here, the nomads of Mongolia offer a quiet, powerful alternative. We are going to walk alongside them today, not as tourists analyzing them from a distance, but as guests, to understand what the modern, stationary world might learn from a people who truly belong to the horizon. If you were standing here in the middle of the summer pasture, what would you notice first? It wouldn't be the sounds of labor or machinery. It would be the profound, enveloping silence, broken only by the wind rushing through the tall green grasses and the distant, scattered bleating of goats. And right in the center of this green infinity sits the jur. It is easy for an outsider to look at this white, felt-covered dome and see nothing more than a simple tent. But if you bow your head to step through that low wooden door, remembering, as the local custom dictates, never to accidentally step on the threshold, you enter a space that has been perfected over generations. The jur is a masterpiece of nomadic engineering. It is entirely collapsible, held together by tension and horsehair ropes, without a single metal nail. But far more than its architecture, it is a living map of Mongolian social values. The door always opens toward the south, letting in the warmth of the sun and turning its sturdy back against the bitter northern winds. Inside, there are no interior walls. There are no private rooms to retreat into when you are frustrated. Life happens entirely in a shared, circular embrace. The space is mapped intuitively. To your left, the western half, you'll find the tools of the herd and the outdoors: saddles, leather bridles, and perhaps a large pouch of fermented mare's milk, known as irog, gently souring in the warmth. To your right, the eastern half, the domestic heartbeats: cooking pots, stores of water, and the quiet hum of family care. And at the very back, facing the door, is the koimor, the family's most sacred space. This is where they keep their most precious things: intricate Buddhist altars, faded photographs of grandparents, and brightly colored festival medals. But as a guest, you will be gently guided to sit on the western side, to the left of the door. From this seat, it is a deeply moving experience to look around. You suddenly realize that absolutely everything a family owns Everything that matters to their survival and their identity surrounds you in a space no larger than a standard living room. It makes you look at your own life and wonder, if I had to pack my entire world onto the back of a cart, what would I truly need to take with me? This quiet realization brings us to the very heartbeat of this culture, the noodle, the seasonal migration. We casually use the word nomad to describe wanderers, people drifting aimlessly across the map in search of adventure. But out here, nothing could be further from the truth. The movement of a Mongolian herding family is a careful, deliberate, and respectful dance with nature. When the grass in the summer valley has been grazed low, and the air begins to take on the sharp, metallic bite of approaching autumn, the family knows the time has come. They don't fight the changing season. They don't try to build a thicker wall against the cold or dump chemicals onto the exhausted earth to force it to grow. They simply pack up their home, gather their animals, and move. They surrender to the rhythm of the earth. Imagine the morning of the move. The air is electric with quiet purpose. Within just a few hours, the entire jar is dismantled. The heavy canvas is folded, the wooden lattice walls are collapsed into neat bundles, and the thick felt blankets are rolled tight. By noon, nothing is left on the grass but a faint, circular indentation. The wind and the next rain will soon erase even that. They leave no permanent scar on the landscape. They take exactly what they need, and they move steadily toward new grass and the shelter of the winter mountains. In the modern, stationary world, we spend massive amounts of energy trying to forcefully control our environment. We build stronger foundations, we air condition the summer heat away, we pave over the mud so our shoes stay clean, we resist change at all costs. The Mongolian nomad teaches us the profound strength of adaptability. When the severe storm comes, you do not stand entirely rigid against the wind, waiting to break. You bend, you pack your life, you move to the sheltered side of the mountain, and you start again. True resilience is not about immovable strength. It is about fluidity. Let's step outside again and look up at that sky. The Mongolians call their homeland the land of the eternal blue sky. And when you are standing out here, with nothing obstructing your view from one edge of the earth to the other, you feel the weight of that name. Did you know this began centuries ago, long before the rise of the great Khans? For millennia, the spiritual life of the nomads has been rooted in Tengrism, a deep, shamanic reverence for the sky, the earth, the jagged mountains, and the winding rivers. The sky, Munkkuk Tengri, was the ultimate supreme force. This isn't just an ancient myth buried in anthropological textbooks. It is a living, breathing reverence that still pulses through the quiet moments of everyday life. When a nomad takes their first sip of hot tea in the morning, or when they open a bottle of vodka to celebrate a reunion, they will often dip their ring finger into the liquid and flick a few gentle drops into the air. It is an offering to the sky, to the earth, and to the ancestors who walked the grass before them. It is a daily acknowledgement that human beings are not the masters of this landscape. We are merely temporary guests of the wind, the water, and the herds. This profound humility shapes their interactions with the world. They avoid digging deep holes, believing it disrupts the spirits resting in the earth. In a modern era defined by taking and exhausting the planet's resources, sitting by this hearth makes you realize that these people have practiced deep ecological harmony long before we ever invented a word for it. But what would surprise you the most, perhaps, is how this ancient mindset interacts with the present day. If you were to visit a Jer camp this afternoon, what you would see is how effortlessly the old world and the new world sit side by side. Next to a heavy wooden cart that looks identical to those used 500 years ago, you will almost certainly see a sleek solar panel angled carefully toward the afternoon sun. Inside the Jer, next to the traditional dung fire, a small flat-screen television might be playing a Korean drama or a national wrestling match, powered by a satellite dish perched cheerfully outside on the felt roof. The patriarch of the family might still ride a half-wild horse to corral the sheep, but his son might use a rugged Japanese motorcycle to cross the valley, with a smartphone tucked into the bright silk sash of his traditional deal tunic to check weather patterns or market prices for cashmere. The culture is not frozen in amber. It survives and thrives, precisely because it is willing to adapt without losing its soul. Even as thousands of young nomads migrate to the capital city of Ulaanbaatar to seek university education or office jobs, the nomadic heartbeat remains fiercely alive. In the sprawling districts surrounding the urban center, many families still choose to live in their gurs. In their minds, they are not really city dwellers. They are simply nomads who have temporarily camped in an urban pasture. When the brief, glorious Mongolian summer finally arrives, the pull of the open steppe is irresistible. Urban professionals happily trade their business suits for traditional robes, pack their vehicles, and drive out into the countryside to drink fermented milk, ride horses, and reconnect their hands with the dirt and their eyes with the endless sky. The physical address may change, but the internal compass always points back to the horizon. Perhaps the most beautiful lesson the steppe offers us, though, is found in its unwritten code of connection. Imagine you are traveling across this vast, empty landscape, and your vehicle suddenly breaks down 50 miles from the nearest paved road. In many parts of the world, you would feel a sudden, sharp spike of panic. Out here, there is no roadside assistance. There are no emergency hotels. But if you look to the distance and see a thin, gray stream of smoke rising from a jar, you instantly know that you are safe. You do not knock on a wooden door. Instead, as you approach the camp, you call out the ancient greeting of the steppe, "No koi, koryo," which translates to "hold the dogs." It is the traditional signal of a visitor. The family will step outside, quiet the mastiffs, and calmly usher you in. Before you even have the chance to explain who you are, where you are from, or what went wrong, the family will calmly motion for you to sit. A woman will reach for her thermos and pour you a warm bowl of sute tsai. A plate of arul, hard-dried cheese curds, will be pushed gently toward you. This radical hospitality is the absolute cornerstone of Mongolian culture. It isn't born merely out of social politeness. It is born out of an ancient, mutual understanding of vulnerability. The steppe is breathtakingly beautiful, but it is also unforgiving. The brutal winter dzud, a natural disaster of deep, impenetrable snow and freezing temperatures, can wipe out a family's entire livelihood in a matter of weeks. When the environment is this vast and this untamed, human beings simply cannot survive in isolation. You pour tea for the stranded stranger today, because you know, with absolute certainty, that tomorrow, the stranger lost in the cold might be you. City life often teaches us to value strict privacy and boundaries. We retreat behind closed doors to find our peace. The nomadic way of life gently flips this modern instinct upside down. It suggests that true security doesn't come from a locked door or a high wall. It comes from community. It comes from the unwavering belief that we are inherently responsible for one another. As the sun begins to dip below the long horizon, painting the dry steppe in deep, bruised strokes of gold, copper, and violet, the herds are slowly brought back to the camp. The sheep huddle tightly together for warmth. The horses graze quietly in the fading blue light, and the smoke from the jar rises straight up into a sky that is rapidly filling with millions of stars. Watching this quiet, ancient evening routine unfold, you begin to understand that home is not necessarily a fixed coordinate on a map. For the nomads of Mongolia, home is a rhythm. It is the immediate warmth of the fire, the reassuring presence of family, and the quiet, steady breathing of the herd outside the door. It is a state of being that you carry with you, wherever the grass takes you. In a fast-paced modern world that constantly demands we acquire more, settle down permanently, and build higher walls to feel safe, the nomadic spirit gently reminds us of a different, lighter path. It reminds us that there is immense, quiet freedom in letting go of what weighs us down. It teaches us that we do not need to conquer the earth to live beautifully upon it. We only need to listen to its seasons, care fiercely for the people who cross our path, and remember that we are always, in some way, moving forward together. Thank you for walking the vast open steppe with us today. If this journey brought you a moment of peace or a new way of looking at your own world, we would love for you to subscribe and continue traveling with us. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. What part of the nomadic mindset resonates most deeply with your own life right now? We are building a quiet community of curious travelers here, exploring the human experience one culture at a time. Until our next journey together, take care, travel lightly, and keep your heart open to the world.